Hi, I'm Paul Stringfellow. Welcome to another Tech Takeaways. So a bit like the last episode, I've been left all on my own, which is they've not learned their lessons from last time, so they've let me loose again, just me, to have some chats. So over the next few episodes, because you figured this out by now that when we record an episode, we don't just record once a week, we do a whole bunch of them together. So unfortunately, feel free, you can unsubscribe right now if you want. But over the next few episodes, it's me and some guests, but it's worth hanging around for the guests. And this week we've got a very special guest actually with us. So somebody who has been in this podcast studio with us every single time we've done the podcast, but you've just never seen him. So here's your chance to introduce you to our head of marketing. It's Josh Mansell. Hi, Josh. How you doing?
I'm all good, Stringy. How are you? Paul even, not Stringy.
You can call me what you like.
Excellent.
It's all right. So this is kind of a bit of a last minute thing. Josh has jumped in. But what we wanted to talk about, so don't worry, we're not going to do a marketing podcast. We do call this Tech Takeaways for a reason, because we're a technology company and we talk about technology. And so I wanted to have some time with Josh today actually to talk about the role that having marketing inside of a technology organization plays in making sure that we can articulate our technology pieces that we do, we can educate our own teams. So talk about kind of the power and usefulness of internal marketing, because I think it's a challenge that many organizations face, that when they're looking to roll out technology or they're looking to educate their staff, they're looking at what are the best ways to do that. So I couldn't think of a better way of doing that than to have Josh with us today as a marketing expert, no pressure, but as a marketing expert to talk about exactly that topic. But before we do that, Josh, as I said, you've been here every single episode, just nobody's ever seen you. So why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your background and what it is you do for us.
Absolutely. The man behind the camera.
Indeed.
So I'm Josh, head of marketing here at Gardner Systems. I've been at Gardner Systems now for a year and 7 months, year and 8 months. And yeah, absolutely love it. So I head up all of the podcasts. You seeing this podcast now, it's been through probably me pushing it with obviously the help of the Liverpool Podcast Studio. We do things from podcasts, we do events, and really helping everyone internally, social media, campaigns. I kind of build a relationship with vendors, Microsoft, Lenovo, Sophos, etc. I kind of head up that we have a good relationship with these people in order to push their products, their services. It's a heavy job. There's a lot of marketing. It's not just social media, publishing posts every day. There's a lot of background stuff that goes on. But keeping the introduction short. Head up all the marketing. Yep.
Okay. Well, that head up all the marketing. I mean, what more do you want to know? Let's kind of unpick some of those things that you've talked about there, because I think you've covered a lot, and you're right. We ask a lot of you, and there's lots of things that our customers and things like this show that people get to see, because Josh kind of does a lot of stuff kind of behind the scenes and under the covers. Nothing like a mixed metaphor to keep people on their toes. So why don't we talk about some of the things then? Because I say this is not so much an exploration of kind of the public face of marketing that people see, but so let's talk about. We talked about some of this before we started recording about some of the things that you do internally, because it's important, and this was kind of thing I wanted to pick through. It's important that organizations know how to market what they do to their own teams, so that actually when their own teams are involved in a project or talking with the customer, that they know exactly why they're doing the things that they're doing, and exactly how the company that they work for can deliver those things. So what I mean, what's your approach to that? What do you look at? What are some of the things that you can do in that way, and advice you could give to other people trying to do the same thing?
Yeah. So really, it's about understanding who you work with and how they interact with the customers. I think it's very much okay. So I have a massive. I work closely, probably in the team with the accounts team. They are the most public-facing people within the business. I think you'd agree with that. And it's about really...
it's the ones who come on a podcast, Josh. They're the public-facing.
In terms of, the actual customer stuff, they look after all our clients, the accounts, those kind of things. They're the people going into the meetings, as well as yourself, as to almost build the relationship and put forth a product or a service that it is that the customer is looking at purchasing. So I think what I like to do with them is okay, I have this close relationship, but how do I have this close relationship? Well, I have it by making sure that they're going into things knowing and understanding. So I like to make sure that they have documents ready. We have a folder called Sales Ammo, and it is literally what you think it is. It is, it's shots to go at the customers with. So if they're going in talking about a particular campaign or something that we're running or a particular product or service, they know where to look if they want to be 2 pages ahead going into that meeting. And I think internally it's so important that our guys are well equipped with these kind of things. I like to frequently converse with them and see, okay, what are you going to be talking to these customers with? What is it relevant for me to go and almost produce for you to go into meetings with? Because this internal marketing is so important. It's it's making sure that everyone is on a good page to go into and have these conversations, and then they can obviously outreach to the customer with documents and stuff that we've made. I think that's super important. Following up with all of the information that I've kind of already provided, super important. And as well as really company wide, we do 4 to 5 events a year. What I like to do is I like to make sure that everyone in the company is aware of a current campaign, a current event, anything like that. So if anyone in the business, it doesn't matter who you are in the business, is asked about, oh, you guys got that event on next week, I want everyone to know about that. Everyone needs to know about that so that we're all unified in driving the marketing. And that doesn't mean make me look better, but that means if everyone is aware of what we're doing, everyone's on the same page and can produce the same information to a customer.
So, question for you then. So I like this idea of sales ammo. So luckily I'm not in sales. I don't know some of these things exist in sales, but but from that point of view, so if we turn this around from and not thinking about it from what we do internally. So, if you're, you're listening to this and you're trying to educate customers on a new solution you're deploying or a new campaign maybe you're running as a business, how do you curate that kind of stuff then? So where would you go for information that you'd put together? So, if we take that sales ammo idea, what is it you look for, and how do you decide how to distill that down into something that, because what we don't want to do is give somebody 50 pages of stuff to read because they're just never going to. So what do you consolidate that down to, what's effective in the way you deliver that?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to the top would be having the good relationship with the vendor. The vendor is the one who will provide me with all that kind of information. What I don't want is our sales guys going onto a portal to look at 15 different PDFs that say somewhat, different variations of things. I want to make sure that they've got one document that they can go in with, that kind of removes all of the technical stuff. A lot of us don't come from technical backgrounds. Me in marketing, I have absolutely not come from a technical background. It's really getting rid of the kind of the technical jargon that is going to, A, confuse people, B, scare people. These are big words. What do these mean? And we want to kind of remove all the questions of, well, what does that word mean? What does that word mean? It's about keeping it simplistic, knowing our audience. I mean, when you look at some of the things that we put out, the Tech Takeaway podcast is a great one. We always said that we were educating Wayne. And that's how we kind of treat this. If you want something a little bit more technical, you've got the CTO podcast. If you want to get the CTO Insight podcast, if you want a little less, more simplified, that's kind of what I would like everything that I equip people with to be simplistic, to release or to get rid of all of the, the jargon that may be confusing or just lead to more questions. So I think when figuring out what the important stuff is that I'm providing the guys with, it's always, okay, well, I'll do the graph to make sure that I have a clear understanding of what everything is. And then it's really summarizing and putting the overview into just one PDF so that they're equipped and they are going in with a simplistic view on things. The last thing we want is, because I also know that our account managers aren't super technical. They haven't come from that technical background. I don't want them going in and asking the same questions that the customer is then going to ask, or the client or whoever they're on the call with. I want them to simply, get that as quickly as possible so then they can provide the same information.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, and I think actually that plays in well into that idea that if of doing that internally, because again, if you're if you're listening to this and you are going to roll out a new technical solution into your organization, I don't know, I'm going to make up a number here, but let's say 90%, as we know, 85.7% of statistics are made up on the spot anyway. So let's say 90% of your audience isn't going to be a technical audience, and ultimately
Yes.
they're not necessarily going to care about the technicalities of it. What they're interested in is, what does that mean to me? What's the key benefits that we're going to get from something, and is it going to impact my life in a negative way? And if it is it going to be worthwhile? You're probably maybe not with the negative slants, but but you want that. Most of your audience is not going to be technical.
Yeah.
And I think that's because I think you're right in terms of a lot of the information. A little point for vendors here, I think, but a lot of the information we hear from vendors fails to focus, I think, a lot of time on business benefit. I think on the whole, as an industry, IT and the IT techies in it have struggled. We've talked about this with some of our CTO guests in the past. Struggled to articulate the business benefit of, why are we doing this? What does this mean to the business? How is this going to make us better at what we do as an organization? And it sounds like that's the kind of stuff that you're doing internally with our guys. That's equally important. This is about what's the benefit? What is it? What's the end result of what the customer is going to get out of that?
Yeah.
And so when you're putting those kind of messages together, I mean, is there anything that is there any tips about how you curate that? How how to target it? And is there any kind of tools that you're using that help you to do that better? Or is it, when you're trying to distill that information down, it is still really an almost a manual process of you having to understand it and then think about, how do I turn that into something for somebody else?
Yeah. I mean, I would be absolutely lying to you if I didn't say that I'd used, AI. I know AI is a massive topic on this podcast. We love to speak about it. But
I think contractually obliged, we've got to talk about it.
But it's one of those things where I will absolutely have AI to help me, if I want to summarize something, if I want to understand something a little bit clearer. AI has been a fantastic tool for me. And again, we speak about it a lot on this podcast, but it's not about using AI and we could go into a different episode, couldn't we, really, about AI in marketing. But it's about. Are
you pitching to come back on again? Is that okay?
Yeah. First time was so nice. So yeah, I think it's about using AI to support me rather than, right, take those 15 PDFs and chuck them all into one. So I absolutely, ChatGPT, I'm all over that. Like I said, not everything you're reading from my marketing is ChatGPT, but I definitely use it to support me on the side. And then tools that are industry standard at this point are really, Canva. If we're looking at like graphic design, things like we do a lot of blog writing, but I don't want to kind of go too far away from what your question was there, really. But the tools really do support me in the sense that I don't just rely on them to do the entire job, but in order to really help me create the content, really help me get a better understanding as well. Like if we have got 15 PDFs that I'm looking into, it's a great way to summarize. I will always proofread and have a little look back and make sure they kind of align, and make sure that what it's giving me is, that it's not just making it up on the spot. But really it's about understanding. It's about understanding what I'm giving the guys. I can't just launch anything at them and hope it sticks. It's got to be, like you said, the non-techie stuff, the non-technical jargon we need to kind of get rid of. I think that kind of answered your question. I kind of went on the trip of tools I started using. Canva, these kind of things. We obviously put everything in shared files. Yeah.
But I suppose, and I think, you absolutely answered the question, because I think, that was the important bit of that is that those tools are there to supplement what you're doing. They don't replace that. You're not just going, here's 15 PDFs. Hey, ChatGPT, tell me 3 things that a salesperson needs to know. Yeah. This is about, give me some key points, and then still you're looking at that with, you talked about this earlier on. I think it's a really important thing to think about if you're looking at how do I get my messaging right out to an organization, is to understand the audience. So what is it that they need to, how are they going to best consume it? Because it's not all about putting stuff in writing. You talked about Canva there before. Sometimes it's, well, can I do an infographic? Is there some graphics I can do that make this easier to consume? We're literally on the podcast that we talked about, because this is how some people are going to consume what it is that an organization does, so is it going to be video? Is it going to be audio? Is it going to be a blog? Is it going to be a graphic? And understanding those and then having the right kind of tools.
Yeah. And we absolutely do a range of them. Everything that you've just kind of listed, we do. We do podcasts. We're sat here right now. It's going to be weird actually doing the weird editing stuff afterwards that I'd normally do with my face on this podcast right now. That's going to be strange. But yeah, so blogs, you are
going to promote this as the best podcast we've ever done.
Well, I probably will. Yeah. My face all over all the socials. So we, in terms of, we do podcasts. I think everything that we kind of put out is very it's informative. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to, because that's not, we're building relationships. We're not just trying to flog you a product. I kind of made this a point from the get-go when I kind of joined, was that I think we need to go down the informative route. And look, we're here on a podcast being informative. We don't end these podcasts with, make sure you buy this product. It's always, we pick a topic and we go in 15, 20 minutes, talk about that topic whilst you're on your train journey into work or whatever. Informative, blogs, we do blogs as often as we can, a few times a month. Informative, this month being cybersecurity awareness month. Informative, everything that we kind of do. We don't do podcasts because we're a podcast company or we're an agency or a marketing agency. We do podcasts because they are a different way that we can approach our audience. And I think obviously the podcast is fantastic. We're on episode 66 this will be. A lot of CTO insights as well. We're starting to do a lot more podcasts with vendors as well. We've got a couple of exciting ones coming up as well. It's just important that everything we do isn't just sell. It absolutely is.
So takeaways for a reason. We want to give some people some simple takeaways at the end. So I'm just giving you some time to think about these now. But so bear in mind, I was interested while I was listening to your talk there that our audience are not marketers. So our audience for this show are probably are normally they're technical teams, maybe they're technical managers, technical leaders, or technical folk looking to deliver solutions. You're a marketing professional. It's what you do. So but for somebody who isn't, but they are still tasked with this same thing of getting messaging out to their customers, to their customers, and by customers I mean probably their internal teams. So is there a couple of tips that you would give them in terms of taking the kind of technical knowledge they'll have and technical information they have and turning that into something that can be more widely consumed across their business? Yeah,
I think number one is you're selling a service and not a product in most cases. You need to, I think from a marketing point of view, it's about building the relationship. And I think it is in the entirety of the industry. Building the relationship is absolutely huge. And in terms of how I would build the relationship in a marketing way is through informative content. We bang on about informative content, but chances are you're not going to ring someone and sell them a service if they've never heard of you. We need to build the relationship by constantly offering them. I think this is a great way to build the relationship, in fairness, because yourself and Jason are on the podcast regularly. Yourself and Jason might end up on a call with someone who has seen the podcast and think, oh, okay, well, I've seen you on that podcast. You're not a CTO that just sits behind, and you're a CTO that's well involved, and oh, I've seen you on the podcast. Okay, I've seen you talking about so many topics. I think this really gives validity. So I think what you're doing is give validity to your audience. Give validity. Show that you are very approachable in the sense that everywhere you look in terms of everything. I don't just post service stuff. We do things like. We had a delivery of 100 laptops the other day. That's great content because it shows that we're personable. We are. What word am I looking for there? We're very. What we do isn't just me trying to throw some random marketing at you about a product. I show things from the dogs coming into the office. It shows that there's people behind what we're doing. And I think that's fantastic. You don't have to always go in with that super technical jargon that could be spoke about in your later detailed calls when it comes to actually producing the final product. But I think the brand building is massive. Become recognizable. Make sure you're everywhere, really. Not everywhere posting rubbish, but everywhere posting something that offers the person something. Give them a takeaway to everything you do. We've got the tech takeaways. We have a tech takeaway at the end of all of the episodes. Everything we do, we like to just make sure that that person has built a knowledge on it. The blogs, the events are fantastic because it's almost like, all right, we've built this relationship, but now it'd be great to present to you something in person.
Well, and I think that's a great tip. And actually, the thing I took away from that, if I was trying to consolidate that down, and it's not something I thought about at all until you've just talked about it. Then was so if you're I'm a techie, and I've worked with technical teams and we've delivered technical solutions. And I think that the key to what you're talking about there is that as an IT team inside an organization is be visible and build that relationship. Because actually then when you want to come and do the marketing bit that says we're rolling out this project because, that message, they already know who you are. They know how to approach you. They recognize you. Whether you do internal podcasts or videos or stuff is not particularly the point. I think it's more about, your messaging is consistent and constant, so people are aware, being approachable. And we've had some really good guests on the show talking about the importance of being approachable and having that communication. I think that's kind of from a marketeer's point of view, that if you're going to market what your IT team are doing internally, be visible, have a relationship with them. So I think that's a great tip. Well, Josh, thank you for your podcasting debut, or Tech Takeaways podcasting debut. We can maybe have you on again, talk about other podcasts you've done in the past, but that's a whole different conversation. So, but Josh, look, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, and it's been great. Loads of great insight for people there.
Thank you very much.
So, hey, no doubt you've enjoyed this episode of Tech Takeaways. I said it wouldn't be too bad that it's just me. I've got great guests coming on, so you can stick around for the guests. You can just edit me out. I'm sure AI can do that. So, no doubt you've enjoyed this show. If you want to make sure you catch all future episodes, and do subscribe, you can subscribe here on YouTube, and you can subscribe in all good homes of podcasts. And as I often say, to the point where you're bored of it, you can also subscribe in bad homes of podcasts as well, if you wish. But until next time, thanks for watching Tech Takeaways. We'll see you again soon.